Okay. Thank you. All I had to do is bring this little flag so I can compare everything else. Thank you for your interest in life-saving and Coast Guard history. These books on the table are for you to take. You can fight over them. I'm going to give another talk next month, so if you come back, you didn't get one this time, I'll bring some more.
Thank you.
Okay. So I'm going to sit down because I don't handball it. Hopefully you'll be able to see okay and hear okay. And I do have a microphone. And my wife says, I never met a microphone I didn't like. Oh, here we go. This picture was, photo was taken at the Orleans Yacht Club when we were celebrating the boat being on the National Register of Historic Places. That was quite a while ago. John? Yeah. Oh, I can turn this thing on, thank you.
That should be on. Focus there, the button.
Here we go.
Backwards. Okay, perfect.
Okay. I'm going to show you the history of this boat, how it came to be in the Coast Guard. But we go back to England. This was an award-winning design, designed to roll over and right itself. Has ballast tanks. Let's see if I can point this out. This pointer doesn't really. This screen is so lively, it's hard to make the pointer work. Oh well, you can see the third boat down. It says ballast tanks in the bottom. That keeps the boat upright if it rolls over. Okay. This is a self-righting type lifeboat from, I forgot what year it is, probably 1800s. So it's a self-righting, and probably self-bailing as well. And here's 1888, a version of the same boat. You notice in the bow section here, there's an air chamber, and then way in the stern where the rudder is, there's a guy standing up there with a cork life vest. That's another air chamber. That's where the coxswain would steer the boat. So here is the Ryder lifeboat. Had nothing to do with this, but that's the name of it. And it was paid for the Royal National Lifeboat Institute. If you paid for the boat, they would name it after you. So William Ryder paid for the boat. This, my wife and I visited England. We visited the guy who was at the tiller, and he told me that he said this photo is the only time they were all in sync. You notice there's 5 oars on one side and 5 on the other. So it's rowed by 10 men. There was no motor in it at the time. So the Lifesaving Service, U.S. Lifesaving Service, which we got started in 1871 in earnest. You notice that this boat has 5 row locks on this side, and obviously it would be 5 on the other. They added a small motor, about 25 horse motor to it on the Great Lakes. One of the keepers decided it might be better if they put a motor in it. So that's what they did. Oops. So the early boats, this is up in Oregon, they were painted black with a varnished rub rail. My grandfather operated a boat like this in Monomoy in 1917. I think it was called Fidelity. But he wasn't really big on the motoring part, but he had engineers, motor mechanics that helped him get the thing running and stuff. So here's another one. This is on the Great Lakes somewhere, I don't know where, but you can see the hull is black and the varnished rub rails and stuff. and the two more masts for sailing. I say this is the Great Lakes because it looks like some kind of revetment or something on the opposite side of the boat that they tied up again. So it may be a lock somewhere, I don't know. So unfortunately, the screen sharing thing obliterates what the word says. It says survivor's compartment with the arrow. You notice, but there's no protection for the crew. So here, they have a windscreen on the, I can't use the pointer because it doesn't work on this lively screen for some reason. Oh, there it goes. No, anyway, that's the first protection for the crew is the windscreen aft. And the way on the right side, I think this is on the Great Lakes somewhere because that's a net drying rig of some sort. On the bow, you can see the two sets of bits. That was the TR model, Model T revised. And then they took away one set of bits and then it became simplified. I got to. So the blue arrow points to the shift lever, which Bernie Weber, the coxswain of the 36-500 who did the rescue, told me, he said, we hated that thing. Because when it was engaged, you see the next slide, it banged into your leg because this boat rolls a lot, rocks and rolls. It's a round bottom and it's just always moving, seems like. So there you can see underneath the steering wheel, the lever, the shift lever. In the foreground here, you can see the mast step, the coxswain's grating there because the water, when the boat's underway with any load on it, the water sloshes through there. So the guy steering the boat wants to keep his feet out of the water if he can. This is in Charlevoix, Michigan. So this is the final drawing of the boat that we know intimately, obviously. With us today is Howard Gostin. Howard, you just want to put your hand up. He's one of the key people who's keeping this boat working, running, painting, doing whatever it takes. And he's there on weekends at Rock Harbor to be a docent to explain the ins and outs of the boat. This photo was taken in Menemsha on the vineyard, and it shows the shift lever being moved up to the right of the steering wheel, up on the what you call a bridge, I guess. That shift lever allows you to let the boat motor run at a high idle, and you can shift it from forward to reverse without touching the throttle. Bernie Weber told me, he said, I don't think I could have rescued those people if I had the present shift arrangement. Because if you have to mess around with the throttle when you're going from reverse to forward, it just, it wouldn't work. So anyway, that's a called marine clutch. The survivor's compartment, there are still remnants of the radio transmitter hookup. There's a copper strap that goes from that little shelf down to the keel with the bolts, so to make a ground. Some of these boats have heaters in them. This one, I don't think ever did. Here you can see the shift lever. This is the boat at Menemsha back in the 50s. So, unfortunately, this has been cut off somewhat. What was the use of these boats? They were employed at Coast Guard stations near dangerous inlets. This boat in particular, the 36-500 and the 36, the one before it, which was at Stage Harbor, they went to the lightships off the coast of Chatham weekly, maybe a couple times a week. to bring food, the crew, whatever. And so they're underway winter and summer. They took care of lighted buoys, and they used to be able to tow fishing vessels to safety if the vessels ran out of gas or got problems with the engine or something. They were allowed to tow vessels. Now they're not. So this picture was taken from one of the lightships after the rescue. You can see the guy with the canvas coat light right in front of him is the Morse control. That was added after the rescue. That's what Bernie said he didn't think would work for him. When I say Bernie, I'm talking about Bernie Weber, who had a house here on Oak Road in Eastham and was living in Chatham during the rescue. These are the attributes of the boat. Seaworthy, capable of righting itself if overturned within 12 seconds. Self-bailing. It draws only 3.5 feet of water. The engine that we have now is about 95 or maybe 100 horsepower diesel, but during the rescue it was a gas engine, about the same power. Unfortunately, the gas engine carburetor would get flooded because, not flooded, but starved for fuel because the boat rolled so much that the float wouldn't drop to allow more fuel to get into the carburetor. So they replaced it with a used diesel engine. The engine that's in there now was built in 1948. The boat was built in 46. The boat was very slow. Maybe you can get 8 knots out of it, which is about 9 miles an hour. You can carry 30, including a crew of 3. And it's capable of breaking harbor ice, which, because it has metal plating all over the wood hull. I watched this boat break ice in Chatham Harbor when I was a kid. The men were actually walking to their boats on the frozen saltwater ice. That's how thick the ice was. And you don't see ice like that anymore. My dad used to go eeling through the ice before Christmas to sell eels to people who have the tradition of the Feast of the Seven Fishes, is it? So the eels are a big part of that 7 group, I guess. So anyway, the price is really good. And he'd be eeling at Ryder's Cove before Christmas, just through the ice. So here's Chatham Harbor in the 50s. Those 2 green pickup trucks down at the lower right. One of them was Harry Hunt's. He was from Orleans, and the other one, Joe Stapleton. They were both fishermen or lousemen. In the lower right, you can see a white dory. That's a Coast Guard dory on an outhaul, which meant that the dory is always in the water. If they needed to go to a rescue, they'd drive down to the beach, pull the boat in, get in it, row out, hook the dory up to the mooring buoy, and take off with the boat. This is the first iteration of the fish pier. This was completed in 1946, and the island in the background is Turn Island, which is owned by the Mass Audubon Group. Now there are pine trees growing on it, I think, or maybe cedar trees, but there are trees growing there. Not big, but they're there. So here is from the 50s or 60s. The arrow points to the fish pier where the boat left from at 20 minutes to 6, that fateful night of February 18th, 1952. And they had to go down the harbor. And just before the harbor turns to the east or to the left, you go by the tip of this end of Monomoy Point. And we used to go right close to that sand. And if you went fishing before daylight, the running lights would light up on the sand. That's how close it was, and that channel was to the sand there. It's so much different now, it's impossible to do any kind of comparison. So the Pendleton Rescue Two 500-foot tankers broke in half, both at the same time. Both were carrying heating oil and kerosene from New Orleans or down south somewhere to either, one was going to Maine and one's going to Boston. February 18th, 52. Howard can tell you in great detail about why did they break up, but basically the seas were heavy. The steel was poor because of World War II steel, and the cold weather made the steel brittle. The Pendleton rescue took place less than a mile off of Morris Island in Chatham. When we tell people these facts, they think, oh, we thought it was way offshore. No, it wasn't. The stern could be seen floating past East Ham and Orleans and Chatham, Nassau Beach in the afternoon. People who are still alive remember seeing it and hearing the whistle being blown. So they got 32 of the 33 men off the stern, and one they lost one, the cook. By the way, he had prepared hard-boiled eggs for the crew, and when they were just, after they started cooling off a little bit, he gave them out for hand warmers. They were still in the shell. I thought that was pretty cool. Anyway, there were 9 lost from the ship in the bow. All the men on the bow were lost. They only found one body up in the forepeak, and he was frozen, according to the doctor who examined him. Then they went aboard and got his body off a couple of days afterwards. So the two broke in half north and east of Provincetown. Now this is a type T2 tanker that Bernie actually had served on before he went in the Coast Guard. He had served on a tanker in the Merchant Marine. I think this is one of the pictures that ship he served on. Anyway, this is approximate the drifting position, but the Pendleton was much closer to the outer beach, like in Orleans, than this shows. But that X near Monomoy Point in the middle is approximately where the stern rolled up on its side and stayed there for 20 years. This is a mural done by Tony Falcone. If you count all the body, this is actually 9 feet high. It's at the Coast Guard Academy Library. If you count all the people, men, either in the water or on the ship, there are 33. It's really quite accurate. But this one, nobody has seen before, much, but I like this one better because it gives you a scale between the rescue boat and the stern. This was painted by a guy who spent his life at sea. And last I knew, this painting was for sale for 20,000, I think, but probably not too many buyers. Anyway, here's Bernie on the left, Andy Fitzgerald, Liberty and Maskey having a donut at the Chatham Coast Guard station. And the thing right by Bernie's left elbow is a can opener. It's in the galley. And I think those windows are still there in the galley. So the photo shows all these men getting ready to get off the rescue boat. This is at the fish pier in Chatham. But I think they had come from the engine room. I've had 12 men in the engine room and 12 men in the forward compartment, the same men would fit. So they must have come from the engine room and are getting ready to get off. Andy Fitzgerald is standing. I don't know if I can make this work again. Oh, it just doesn't show up. Maybe a little bit. Oh, anyway, he's standing up the top of the picture, and there's a boat in the background tied to the dock, which had probably been rescued earlier in the day because of the wind. It had gotten adrift, and Bernie spent the day and the morning bringing those boats, bringing them back to the dock. So anyway, it was a big deal. These are the men who were lost. So all the men got, they were awarded gold medal, life-saving medals. Bernie was told he was gonna get the gold medal and the rest of them were gonna get a silver life-saving medal. He said, no, 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 no. Either we all get them or nobody gets them. So they went along with him. So those four men, they don't give gold life-saving medals anymore to active duty people, because that's part of their job, but they can give them other rewards. So the boat was retired in 68. It was given to the Park Service, and this photo was taken in Wellfleet. The boat was there, and Bill Quinn from Orleans was a photographer who specialized in aerial photography. And the Park Service wanted some of his photos. So he's sitting up there in the office, and he looks out the window and he sees this boat, and because he knew what the history was, he said, what are you gonna do with this thing? Well, we're gonna fix it up, but we don't have any money. He said, can you transfer it to somebody else? Well, yes, but not to you. It has to go to a group, not an individual. So they called the Chatham Historical Society. Joe Nickerson at the time was president. He said, we don't want no damn boat. So it wound up in the Orleans Historical Society's hands. And this is what it looked like. It was in tough shape cosmetically, but it was salvageable. The hull was in good shape. It just, the paint peeled off and stuff. So some of the parts are still in use. The grating on the right side, down at the lower right, that grating is still, we still use that. And the frame for the canvas Dodger, we still use that. The gear shift is there. I can't point it to you, but it's a black box on the right, halfway up on the right picture. So Fred Kroll from Harwich was hired to hoist the boat out over the fence, and they brought it to Orleans to finish working on it. This is what the engine looks like. But, it's a heavy duty cast, a lot of cast heavy iron stuff. It's a diesel, but it can be fixed. This is what the gas engine looked like. It had 6 cylinders, 2 spark plugs in each cylinder. And this is the engine that was gasoline powered. And because of the carburetors, that's where the engine failed as they were going over the bar. I think this pipe support system on the top of the head must be to keep for people from crashing, falling into it. This is the Sterling petrol engine built in Buffalo, New York for the Navy and Coast Guard. So this is what the engine looked like more recently. And on long trips, down at the bottom, you see that elbow with the pipe clamps and stuff. If you put a can of cable soup in there, it takes about 2 hours to make it ready to eat. I know because I've done that. But it takes only 15 minutes for Pop-Tarts. But it's pretty hot when the engine gets running. So this is what the boat looked like shortly after they finished. They got it in 1981 and finished, put it back in the harbor, Rock Harbor in 1982. So it still pretty much looks just like that. The upper left is we took Sally Snowman, the lighthouse keeper, to Boston Light, along with some admirals and some other dignitaries. The picture on the upper right, it was taken in Nantucket. You can see the lighthouse there at the entrance. And Santa Claus on the lower left is being delivered to the Chatham Fish Pier. And the right shows the 4 different kind of boats at Station Provincetown. Howard Gostin, by the way, was a watchstander as an auxiliarist at the Station Provincetown for, I think, Howard, 15 years, right?
15 years.
Yeah, he stood watch, the radio watch in the station. So what's the future of this boat? Well, we're gonna preserve it, take it out. Actually, we work on the boat. I used to work on the boat at the Chatham Coast Guard Station garage, which is perfect. It fits in there. They have security. They have a bathroom for the crew to work on. They have electricity. They have compressed air, and a crew of young people who are willing to help. They'll paint the bottom, or perhaps the auxiliaries paint the bottom. But I've done it, so I don't need to do it anymore. But I think I've painted every part of that boat somewhere or another. But it's a labor of love for so many people. Nancy Bradkey's here, right? Nancy works on it with Howard. I don't know if anybody else is here that has worked on it, but anyway. So we also, we have, I say, continue with plans to build a permanent home for the boat. We have the plans. We have an architect that we paid him to draw up the plans. We have 2 women who are museum specialists who come up with some designs. And we're waiting for the town of Orleans to decide that we can get a little bit more land from them. It will be next door to the Orleans Historical Society, across the street from the Orleans Town Hall. I don't have a picture of it, but it would be lit up at night. It'll be indoors for the rest of its life, which enables us to have people come and visit it year round. Right now, they can only come in the summertime on 2 hours on Saturday and 2 hours on Sunday. You can see it all the other time, but you can't, you wouldn't be able to get any kind of information about it. So that's pretty much, that's almost a half an hour. I think that's the end of it. Oh, no. Oh, this is my favorite slide. The Finest Hours, the movie. How many of you have seen the movie? Okay, I'm gonna tell you what is not real in the movie. First of all, the location, what was faked? The location was faked. Stage Harbor for the return, not the fish pier. All those cars that were lit up and stuff. There weren't that many cars in Chatham at the time. I mean, really. The British girlfriend came to this Coast Guard station to complain. Not true. His wife, Miriam, was homesick with the flu. She was totally unaware of what was going on. And no Coast Guard wife back then, or any now, would go to the station to raise hell like that. The sea conditions at the bar, people say they were 60 feet high. Let me tell you, my brother Bob fished out of Chatham for 35 years. He's still alive. My dad was a fisherman, but the seas break before they get that close to the beach. But you can see them breaking offshore, and as it gets more shoal, the waves break. And 25 feet would be probably as high as they get. But the Chatham Airport at Chatham, inland, is 63 feet above sea level. So do you really think the waves would have been 60 feet at the bar? No, it could, no. Okay, then the boat's running underwater. You can't do that. Oh, this one is Howard. I got him on this one. I gave the show last week to Orleans, the auxiliaries, and Howard said he didn't know this. The car, you remember the car goes off the road into a snowbank?
Yeah.
Okay, well, the lights are still on. So a mechanic friend of mine in Dave Reed in East Hampton, he said, hey, Dick, he says there was 2 cars there. The back shot is one car. The car, the view from the front of the car is a different car. There were 2 different cars. Okay, all right. The Pendleton sank. No, it didn't. It came to rest and rolled over on the side. my uncle and a bunch of other Chatham men were on the thing 3 days afterward. And they captured a whole bunch of stuff. They took whatever they could get. It wasn't nailed down. But it was, he said it was very difficult to walk on it because it was such a tilted, such an angle. So it was visible from the lighthouse for over 20 years. The attempt was made to rig up a steering arm in the movie. There's no evidence of that happening. It was dramatic, but not true. On the return, everybody's on top of the boat. They couldn't be because they would have fallen off. Only 3 were outside in the middle. And my guess is 12 in the survivors compartment, 12 in the engine room, 3 outside, and 9 in the coxswain area makes 36. The boat was rated for 30 people by the Coast Guard, not 12, like Disney said. And the compass, according to the movie, that was lost overboard. The compass gone. Well, you know, all right. It wasn't, he didn't know where it was because it's dark, but it was underneath the side deck, but it wasn't lost, but it was no use to him. So, I have answers to questions, I think. I heard the rescue on the Coast Guard radio at home. My dad was a fisherman, so he had a receiver that my mother could listen to Coast Guard, listen to the Chatham fishermen talking, and also listen to commercial vessels calling the Boston marine operator to patch a phone call to their wives or the fish dealers or whoever, and you could hear both sides of the conversation. So that was way before television, way before cell phones and stuff. But it was, you know, so anyway, I heard the rescue radio traffic, and I did hear the station calling Bernie, but he refused to answer. He shut the radio off because he didn't want to be told where to go, because he didn't know. They wanted him to bring the vessel with all the survivors out to the bigger ships, like the one that Cliff April.
Yes.
The bib wasn't there, but it was several Coast Guard cutters that were offshore, and they said, bring them out to us. Well, he didn't know where he was, and he didn't know where they were, so he had no way of knowing. He said, no, I'm not gonna do that. So he shut the radio off so he couldn't be accused of disobeying an order, which didn't seem to be a prudent thing. He could have been court-martialed, but he wasn't. I don't think there's anything else. No, there isn't. So maybe I skipped over something. I don't know. I'm sorry that the other part was cut off, but I guess Sarah Moriarty, I hope she's listening. Anyway, any questions? I see people have brought photos. I didn't get a chance to identify the second one.
I'm sorry.
But I think I can help you with that. My grandfather was a surfman in the Lifesaving service at Old Harbor, the station that I wrote the book about. He started there as a winter man in 1905, I think, or 6. The winter man was brought in on the 1st of December because you need 6 men to row the surf boat. So they had 6 surfmen. They brought in the 7th one. That guy was there to keep, if they went out on a rescue, that guy was there to keep the fires going, because they're all coal-fired stoves and stuff. And if you got crew coming back, they're gonna be soaking wet, the survivors are gonna be wet, and they're gonna be the ones something to eat or coffee or something. So the 7th surfman was there from the 1st of December on. So he was the winter man initially. Then he came on for a permanent. They got $65 a month, as you'll find out in the book. And they were there from late August to May. People said, did they go 24 on, 24 off? No, they were there all winter. They got 1 day off a week, $65 a month. Big money, you know? It was good. It was adapted to the job. In the summertime, they went fishing, or coal hogging, or clamming, or whatever. And so lobster maybe. So it was, and there were 4 stations in Chatham alone. And so you figure 8 men times, that's 32 men get government pension pay just in one little town alone. It was a big deal. Some of the men came from Howard, South Howard, Because to go to Monomoy, you can leave from like Witchmere Harbor and the dory, go row to work down Monomoy. It's really easy, you know? So some came from Brewster, but when they got one day off a week, they row from Pleasant Bay, from not the beach, not the, Spit, to the mainland in Chatham Port, North Chatham, and then continue walking to home, And it was, rowing was what they did, so it was no big deal to them. Anyway. So I'll be giving a talk next month on the 13 stations, the lifesaver stations. I have pictures of all of them. I'm not gonna go into detail about the rescues that they performed, but I might throw in one or two. In 1902, there were 7 surfmen lost the Monomoy disaster. And total, there was 10 surfmen lost altogether in the lifesaving service from 1871 to 1915 on the Cape alone, on the Outer Cape. So, must be a question here somewhere. No. Okay. Well, thanks for coming.
Thank you, Dave.
Well, thank you all for coming. Yes, it was a very enjoyable conversation and presentation. We did have some Zoomers, and that's always an option for us to be able to partake in these presentations. And we also have another one coming up about discussing life-saving station 11, right? 13. That's gonna be in December, so check your newsletters and please come back. We'll have lunch again and enjoy ourselves. So thank you again.
Anyway, there were 260 lifesaver stations in the country. So 13 of them were on the Cape. That's quite a few. And 4 in Nantucket. So it was a major employer.
Is there just the one, how many are left?
The Beachcomber and Wellfleet.
Okay.
At Coleman's Hollow.